When Rogue married Gambit in Marvel Comics, it was the least ceremonious thing ever. Like, it was just spur of the moment. But to understand that, you have to go through the wedding of Colossus and Kitty Pryde. Now, here's the thing. Before Colossus and Kitty Pryde get married, and before Rogue and Gambit get married, you actually have this conversation between Colossus' sister, Ilana Rasputin, also known as Magic. You guys remember her from X-Men 97 when Morph turned into her momentarily? She's ridiculously powerful. Anyway, because Ilana Rasputin does not have any business of her own to mind, she decides to mind everybody else's business. And she basically goes to Kitty Pryde, and she's like, look, I don't mean to be the person who's like a jerk and like throwing a wrench into your wedding or anything like that, but I kind of have some thoughts, right? And because Kitty Pryde's known Magic ever since she was a little girl, she's like, talk to me. Like, what do you think's going on? And she's like, I just kind of feel like a lot of stuff's happened between you guys over the years, and I feel like if you were going to get married, it would have happened by now. Like, bro, really? Like, you're gonna go to the bride like the night before her wedding and run your mouth like that, start putting thoughts in her head? Like, what is your problem? Like, I'm sorry you can't get a boyfriend, but like, don't make everybody else's life miserable, right? Like, wow. So the crazy thing here is you get to the day of the wedding with Kitty Pryde and Colossus, and it's like this great big huge beautiful ceremonial event, and like seemingly the who's who of the X-Men universe shows up here. And when I say the who's who, I mean basically just the X-Men, right? Because I mean, like, when was the last time you heard like the Fantastic Four getting together? It's not like the marriage of Black Panther and Storm, which took place in the middle of Civil War. All grievances were set aside and everyone showed up, but also because it was like the most anticipated wedding in the history of Marvel Comics. It was really, really amazing. Storm shows up here looking absolutely fantastic. Rogue shows up looking gorgeous. Gambit's totally smitten. One of the things that I do want to specify in this is that actually leading up to the marriage between Rogue and Gambit, Marvel had a comic book series called Rogue and Gambit. And basically, like, they had been dating. And in fact, their relationship kind of goes back a pretty good chunk in Marvel Comics. As most of you guys are aware, if by only just through casual reading of Marvel, or likely from X-Men the Animated Series, X-Men 97, there was a kind of like back and forth between the two, right? It was like Jim and Pam from The Office, will they, won't they, that sort of thing. Unlike X-Men 97, Rogue doesn't have a fetish for old dudes, although technically she did in the Savage Land saga when we got Savage Land Rogue and Magneto. But the point is that you have everybody showing up here looking fantastic, and that's when like the music cues, and like Colossus is totally flabbergasted by how gorgeous Kitty Pryde looks, right? She is just absolutely stunning. And so as she comes down here, you get like the whole ceremony, right? It's like, welcome, I'm privileged to welcome Catherine and Peter into this most sacred of covenants. Their love is much like their hearts, strong, beautiful, and pure of spirit. It's this love that has sustained them and returned them to one another's arms, even when parted by circumstance, which is to say, when Kitty Pryde was quite literally trapped in a bullet, right? Other people, which is actually the point in Marvel Comics when Kitty Pryde was dating Peter Quill, Star-Lord, yes, that happened, and it was pretty amazing, or even death itself. Now, this is a reference to when Colossus died during the events of I don't remember what issue it was, but it was back in the 1990s. They had to kill Colossus to find a cure for the legacy virus, basically AIDS for mutants in Marvel Comics, quite literally. He ended up coming back in Joss Whedon's Astonishing X-Men run. But it said, we are all humbled in the face of such love and draw near to celebrate it today. I'm pleased to say that Mr. Wagner actually does have the rings. Catherine, please place the ring on Peter's finger and repeat after me. I will love and cherish you for all of my days. Of course, she says that, and then he's like, you, Peter, do you promise to say all the stuff that I just said to her? And it's like, yeah, sure. And then, of course, it's Peter, please place the ring on Catherine's finger and repeat after me. The dawn will never rise on a day where you are not in my heart. And as Peter says this, Kitty Pryde phases. The ring goes through her hand. She, like, everybody's just flabbergasted. They're like, what in the world is going on, right? She just drops to her knee. She's like, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, but I don't think I can do this. And she just like leaves him at the altar. And it's like, wow, wow, why would you do that? Just leave somebody, like, you couldn't told him beforehand. I mean, it's not like you went into the wedding and you were just like, yeah, like I was totally confident of it until like this minute right now. Like, it's like, no, man, like you kind of knew how you felt, like say something, you know what I mean? So Peter's just like, Nightcrawler, I don't even want to be here. Nightcrawler's like, I got you back, Home Slice. Teleports the dude out of there, leaves the smell of fire and brimstone in his wake. Because whenever Nightcrawler teleports, it leaves the smell of fire and brimstone because he teleports through a brimstone dimension to get to any one particular place. But then like Gambit and Rogue are just kind of like, did what I think just happened actually happen? Like, did Colossus just get left at the altar? So you pick up with the wedding reception, right? Or at least was supposed to be the wedding reception. And everybody's just like super off kilter because it's not every day that you just see somebody get left at the altar. It's the worst case scenario. Colossus ends up going to track down Kitty Pryde and kind of talks to her and is like, what in the world is going on here? And her response is a really interesting one. Of course, again, it was Ilana Rasputin that set her on this course and convinced her not to marry Colossus. But the whole thing here is she's like, so many things have happened. Like there's all kinds of mixed emotions here. And I know I love you and I know I care about you, but in all honesty, there's great history, but there's terrible history too. And all of it's messy. Life's too chaotic to get married. Now, is it a flimsy excuse at best? Absolutely. But the fact is that she just isn't in a position to do it. She's like, I just don't really want to get married. I'm just not feeling it at all, right? And so, of course, the two of them kind of end up becoming friends or something along those lines. That's when you get into the part about Gambit and Rogue, the part you've all been waiting for, and I've made you wait like 7.5 minutes for. So, what you get is this really, really interesting moment where Storm and Gambit are just kind of talking about everything. And Gambit's like, you know, I saw it and I still don't believe it. Of course, Nightcrawler says it's most unexpected and heartbreaking, but the response of Storm is, or it's fortunate. And where Gambit's just kind of like, I'm not really sure using that word is a good idea. The response to Storm, I simply mean if things aren't meant to work out between Kitty and Peter, it's better they realize it tonight rather than some years from now. Marriage is hard. It requires more than love. It requires a need, a hunger, a feeling that you'd rather not go on living than spend another day apart. The response of Gambit, you're absolutely right. This dude races over to Rogue like a bat out of hell, right? He's like, I'd rather not go on living than spend another day apart. And so like where he runs up on Rogue, she's like, Remy, are you okay? And he's like, that all depends. And she says, on what? And he's like, on one knee and proposes. Now, as a general rule, you never propose to a woman at somebody else's wedding. You do not do that. Like you could ask almost any woman in existence and she'll be like, no, you absolutely don't do that. But he's like, what does it look like? And she's like, this is absolutely crazy. And his response, have you met me? Right? I mean, come on guys, it's Gambit, right? Just like the most suave guy ever, right? And his response, but what's not crazy is we got all our friends here, someone to marry us, and a wedding canopy right outside. The response of like Kitty Pryde and Colossus is like, he's right? Don't let the evening go to waste. This would never happen in real life. But the response of Rogue is, I can't believe that you're doing this, but I couldn't be happier for it. I say yes. And so like they immediately get married, like on the spot. That's why I say like, it's just the most hodgepodge thrown together thing. But at the end of the day, like it was just kind of meant to be. Tell me with a straight face that like Rogue and Gambit getting married doesn't make sense. It was only ever a matter of time. And so you get this really amazing, albeit last minute, but beautiful wedding ceremony that's probably more gorgeous than we would have seen from Kitty Pryde and Colossus, where like the priest is just like, this certainly is one of the most unconventional weddings that I've ever participated in. You said the two of you had vows you'd like to exchange. The response of Gambit, for me, not so much a vow. My promises have never really been worth much of anything. Instead, it's more of an affirmation. And he says, I love you with every piece of me, Anna Marie. I haven't always been a good man, but we've been through hell and it's changed me. You've changed me. You see in me the man I hope I am. And that's my vow to you, to always be worthy of your love and respect. The response of Rogue, Remy, we've been through so much, you and I. We face challenges a lot of other couples never have to face, but we always keep finding ways back to each other. So that's what I promise you. No matter what, I'll always find my way back to you. And so it's just like gorgeous, right? The priest is like, so This all being so spontaneous, all that remains is for me to say Mazel Tov and introduce Anna Marie and Remy LeBeau as husband and wife. It is amazing. I don't know why, but I just love the idea of Gambit and Rogue being married. The cool thing about this, and let me know if you guys want me to see it, it only lasted 12 issues, but Marvel launched a comic called Mr. and Mrs. X, which is actually the second volume of Gambit and Rogue's own solo series, where basically like you follow them on their, after their wedding going into their honeymoon. In the second issue, Deadpool crashes their honeymoon, and it's amazing. With that being said, guys, we're going to bring this to an end. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments, and I will catch you all later. Peace.